Let me begin by answering that question with telling you I don't believe anyone is an illegal alien. That's a terrible term to use about anyone.
It's a legal term.
It's not a legal term. They used to call black people slaves legally, and it was wrong.
It's Illinois House Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch on the House floor Halloween morning. Gosh, that was like at 1 o'clock in the morning or something, if not even later, where they were debating the issue of a bill the governor's expected to sign today expanding the state's migrant sanctuary policies. But it also goes further to allow for private rights of action, lawsuits against people in this space, including at daycare centers, hospitals, and universities. Could it also mean local police? We'll see. Obviously, this is a bill that's pretty contentious. Final hours of fall veto session. The last week there were talks about it, but we didn't know what bill it was going to be put in, and they took a bill that had already passed the House that recognized prisoners of war and missing in action, and they went ahead and gutted and replaced that in the Senate and made it a migrant sanctuary bill. So you can go to thecentersquare.com and read up on that. We'll have a reporter on location at the event today with the governor to ask questions about the migrant sanctuary expansion. But this is what the debate sounded like on the House floor. Again, early Halloween morning and fall veto session about this bill. And in particular, I just wanted to re-highlight the conversation that State Representative C.D. Davidsmeyer, a Republican from Murrayville, had with Illinois House Speaker Chris Welch, a Democrat from Hillside.
Mr. Speaker, do you agree with Governor Pritzker that you want federal law enforcement to work with local law enforcement to get rid of criminal illegal aliens?
Let me begin by answering that question with telling you I don't believe anyone is an illegal alien. That's a terrible term to use about anyone.
It's a legal term.
It's not a legal term. They used to call black people slaves legally, and it was wrong. Let's stop dehumanizing people. Let's start treating people right. Language matters. Let's treat people with respect and humanity. And I agree with Governor Pritzker that we should fight like hell to protect people's constitutional rights and their due process rights. Next question.
So again, that was just a little bit of the debate in the Illinois House on early Halloween. This bill, again, starting out as a prisoner of war bill and missing in action recognition bill, passed the Illinois House way back in April unanimously. Everybody was on board with setting aside a day that would be a recognition of MIA POWs. But then it never passed the House before the end of spring session. Come fall veto session, never passed the Senate before the end of spring session. Come fall veto session, the Senate took that bill that passed unanimously about POW MIA and gutted and replaced it. The final hours of fall veto session made it this migrant sanctuary bill that expands things quite a bit, and it's now on the governor's desk. And you've got DHS putting out a statement, the Department of Homeland Security putting out a statement last night. Governor Pritzker's Sanctuary, Illinois, released more than 1,700 criminal illegal aliens, including murderers, pedophiles, and kidnappers. We'll just read from this here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Again, I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for being with us each and every weekday morning. But you see here that DHS says ICE Director Todd Lyons sent a letter to the Illinois Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, calling on him to put safety of Americans first and honor ICE arrest detainers of the more than 4,000 criminal illegal aliens in the state's custody, including murderers, sexual predators, and those convicted of charges with weapons offenses. Illinois' failure to honor ICE detainers has resulted in at least 1,768 criminal illegal aliens since January 20th being released. Crimes of these aliens include 5 homicides, 141 assaults, 23 burglaries, 4 robberies, 24 dangerous drug offenses, 15 weapons offenses, and 10 sexual predator offenses. There are currently 4,015 aliens in the custody of an Illinois jurisdiction with an active detainer. The crimes of these aliens include 51 homicides, 1,100 assaults, 107 burglaries, 36 robberies, 275 dangerous drug offenses, 120 weapons offenses, and 813 sexual predator offenses. So that letter in September that went to Raul asked for cooperation. The office responded to the DHS and the assistant secretary of DHS, saying that Governor Pritzker and his fellow Illinois sanctuary politicians are releasing murderers, pedophiles, and kidnappers back into our neighborhoods and putting American lives at risk. We're calling on Governor Pritzker and his administration to stop the dangerous derangement and commit to honoring ICE arrest detainers of the more than 4,000 criminal illegal aliens in Illinois' custody. It's common sense. Criminal illegal aliens should not be released back onto our streets to terrorize more Americans. And it goes through some of the worst criminals that they say Governor Pritzker is holding, and some have been released in the past. But you've also got DHS putting out a wow.dhs.gov website, and WOW stands for worst of the worst. So you can go to this website and actually search. Again, it's dhs.gov/wow. You can go to this website and search. Let's just do any state, Illinois. All right, pull it up. And you can see the illegal immigrants that DHS says that they've gotten here in Illinois. And there's just pages and pages of this. Interesting to note, it's got ways you can quickly share it on either Facebook, X, and Truth Social, which is President Donald Trump's social media platform. Interesting to see the criticism of possible conflicts there, but regardless, it's a social media site that's pretty active. But you can see here, it's not just in Chicago they're arresting illegal immigrants. It's LaSalle, it's Thompson, it's Orland Park. I mean, here's somebody from Ukraine that they say was arrested for burglary and marijuana possession. Elgin and Burbank and more. So 20 pages or so just from Illinois of what the Department of Homeland Security says is the worst of the worst. So again, this bill expanding migrant sanctuary policies on the governor's desk, he is signing it today. State Representative Patrick Windhorst, when we talked with him last week or the week before, because this bill's been on the governor's desk since I think November 25th, Patrick Windhorst, the Republican floor leader for the Illinois House Republicans, he says, listen, this bill, it expands migrant sanctuary policies.
Yeah, this bill touches on a wide swath of our society, as you mentioned, dealing with higher ed, hospitals, and child care specifically. And it's going to require these entities to have policies in place when they are engaging with law enforcement, in some cases beyond the immigration context. For instance, and the policy provisions related to the hospital, hospitals will be required to have a policy in place with how they will handle law enforcement on their premises, regardless of the purpose, immigration or not. In fact, so much so that a hospital is to contact their legal counsel when law enforcement is on the premises, which, as I'm sure you know and others who are hearing this know, law enforcement is often at hospitals completely unrelated to immigration. If they're bringing someone who has been involved in a criminal activity or an accident into the hospital for treatment or evaluation, or if a correctional officer has an inmate at a county jail who needs medical care, or they're brought to a hospital, all these things would trigger those notice requirements that are unrelated to immigration. And it does present penalties to hospitals, child care centers, and our colleges and universities if they do not either have the policies or abide by them, putting them at risk of those penalties that don't exist prior to this bill.
Windhorst saying that this measure that's now on the governor's desk, and he's expected to sign it this morning, it's going to strain the relationship even further between the federal government enforcing immigration and the state of Illinois shielding non-citizens in the state. You've got the Trust Act that was passed, prohibiting state and local police from cooperating with immigration enforcement, and that was signed by a Republican governor back in 2017 or something. Then you have the Way Forward Act that went further, signed by Governor J.B. Pritzker when he first came into office, that went further to say that local jails cannot have ICE use their jail beds as detention beds for ICE. So that cut that money off, and that cut that bed off for ICE to be able to detain somebody and use them and have them in a county jail, for instance, while they get them other accommodations. So that's cut off. But it also went further to essentially say that they can't, communicate again or even ask about somebody's perceived immigration status. So Windhorst says this bill is going to take that even further to allow for private rights of action against hospitals, daycare centers, and universities, and possibly even local law enforcement for violating these types of things. And also, you have Windhorst being very critical of the way this bill passed.
Well, this bill is another example of the problem that exists in the operation of our General Assembly, where we have a bill that does one thing, in fact has broad or even unanimous support, and then is changed in a moment's notice, sometimes with just an hour's notice, and ends up being passed in one chamber and sent to the other chamber that same day, passed again with just an hour's notice. Basically what I view as a violation of the spirit, if not the letter, of the 3 readings rule in our state constitution. We see this often done with the budget, and unfortunately also large pieces of legislation that have broad impact like this bill does. It's a bad practice. That makes for bad law. And I think this is another example of a bad practice making bad law. This bill should have been one. We had 6 days in the veto session. If this is the legislation the majority wanted, we could have started with day one and worked its way through under what I would consider the appropriate or proper channels passing legislation. But instead, we have legislation that is major, broad, wide-ranging, passing with just a day's notice or sometimes less than that.
So obviously you've got Windhorst critical of the process, but the process of the Trump administration enforcing immigration law finds its critics, obviously. Here's Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson yesterday being asked about immigration enforcement.
Is this number the sticking point?
Thanks, yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
We saw federal immigration activity ramp up in the suburbs this weekend. Does your admin have any intel on whether DHS plans to move in Chicago? And if so, what can you share?
Well, I have seen those reports, and they are just as gruesome as they've been over the course of Trump's reign in this season. And, as far as specific intel around what their activity could be or will be, none of that has crossed my desk. I can tell you, though, that we are in constant state of preparation. We do know at some point the Trump administration is going to double down or continue their efforts to terrorize cities across America. So we're in constant communications with mayors across this country. My superintendent is in communications with folks in law enforcement, and obviously we're still in strong partnership with the state and the county to make sure that we're protecting all the people of our city.
Well, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson saying they're going to continue watching what happens there, but surely the Trump administration is going to be continuing their immigration enforcement activities, and especially when you've got a website like wow.dhs.gov, where you can search what DHS says is the worst of the worst being apprehended and on their way out of the country. This is obviously not going to slow down anytime soon. Governor J.B. Pritzker signing that law expanding immigrant sanctuary policies at 9:30 this morning at a church, I believe, in Little Village. So we'll see what he has to say, and we'll bring that to you here tomorrow. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. That's right, daily, each and every weekday morning here. I'm Greg Bishop with the Center Square.